I spent many of my years in ministry in the Dutch Reformed Church. And my last church in New York, which was over 350 years old, was the sixth oldest church in the country. I arrived there and they started calling me Domini, because every pastor who was pastor of that church was called by the Dutch name Domini. Well, if you know anything about Latin, Domine is God. And so I kind of never liked the idea of being called God, but anyway, but I was the Domini of the Old Dutch Church in Kingston, New York. And we spent a lot of time doing Dutch music because every other week there was somebody there who was there for a special occasion. And I discovered the music of Floor Peters. Floor Peters actually was Belgian, but he was actually born in the Netherlands and then went over to Belgium. Belgium and the Netherlands are actually the same, were originally the same country. When the Calvinists took over the Netherlands, they gave the southern half to the Catholics and the northern half to the Protestants. And so, but we were all doing the same music. So anyway, I discovered this beautiful little piece called aria, which is means song, and it's a beautiful contemporary piece that is just loves to sing, and it's one of my favorites to play.
Have you enjoyed Ken? We have one more number that he is going to do, if you will indulge me just for a moment. Just before the last election, we wanted to take a moment to thank you for taking the time on a Friday evening when so much is going on in the Riverside-Avondale community, which is a good thing. This is hopefully a continuation of future concerts to be held in this community space, presently called the Riverside Church at Park and King. This is not about a religious organization, theology, or doctrine, but it's about using this splendid, sacred space in service to the whole community. It is published that Addison Meisner, when questioned about what kind of church this was to be, his response, and you can read it in the book, was that he didn't care. He was not really a religious man. And yet, he collected sacred art and crucifixes and designed this church as a memorial and an honor to his mother. He said that he hoped that it would be a cathedral for thinking people. 100 years ago. It has become just that, where all are welcomed and all means all. As you leave tonight, take a few minutes, if you didn't already, and look at some of the archives, ask questions. We have ushers to help you. The swag bags, if you will, pick up a swag bag. It's got some fun stuff in it, and a brochure that would be like a souvenir. It's also got a trifold. More importantly, it has a QR code on it. If you are able to help support in this work, meaning the restoration of the Meisner Sanctuary, it would be so much appreciated. We have already started collecting funds for that. For those of you that may not be aware, Riverside Church at Park and King has been awarded a matching grant from the National Fund for Sacred Spaces of $385,000. That is no small thing. In that, it is a matching grant. We are in the process of raising the matching $385,000 for the renovation needed to secure this architectural treasure, the only sacred place Meisner designed for posterity, and more important, for community. Again, this is not about religion, theology, or doctrine. Thank you for your continuing support in this community effort. We look forward to seeing you again. We're hoping that this becomes a monthly thing with different genres of music and performers. And again, Ken Walsh, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you. Just a word. This is a little to add on to what Tom just said. It was about 2 years ago that Maddie and Adam and I had lunch together. It's something that ministers do, you know. And when you're an inclusive congregation, we all got to join together because we can feel mighty lonely. Well, it turns out that Back in 2004, when I arrived in Kingston, New York, in between the time that I interviewed for the Domine position and was called and started my first church, I drove up to find that on the side of the building was two steel girders holding up the side of the building. It was my building was built in 1850, and it had been leaning for probably 100 years of that. And they decided that we better do something about it. So I get there, and there's a girder against the building. Well, we started researching costs, and we got estimates as much as $3 million to repair it, that include taking down the ceiling and rebuilding the stone wall. Turned out we didn't have to do that, thank God, but the miracle happened when we started looking into grants and sacred sites, the place where that has funded us too. And I suggested to Adam that perhaps the church ought to look into getting a separate 501c3 for the restoration and maintenance of the building. Well, that's what we did. And it turned out you ended up in the same place that I did, because Tom told me they went to Philadelphia, we went to Philadelphia, and we were awarded some wonderful money. And today, it is a showplace in uptown Kingston, New York. I see that is going to happen here too. Don't feel inundated by the price tags. But remember, you're preserving a masterpiece. And that not only that houses a greater masterpiece. I'm a little prejudiced. But I congratulate you for that, and I'm going to be there supporting you along the way, and know that any way that I can help, I'll be here. Now a word about the final piece. If you're interested in following the words of this hymn, it's number 14 in the hymn book. Savior of the nations, come. It's not a well-known, certainly not a well-known Baptist hymn, but I did a dedicatory recital for a Lutheran church in North Carolina many years ago, and I did an improvisation on the spot of Savior of the Nations, come, and they have 7 verses in their hymn book. Lutherans, heaven forbid you should leave a verse out. So the last verse of that is all about how one day we are going to be redeemed, and the Savior of the nations come. The last verse is the fulfillment at the end of time. And what I saw was the world in ruin, and all of a sudden you're going to hear the great trumpet call, and all will be well. All in the hands of God. So, I'm not going to preach a sermon tonight, but that's my little bit. And so this is Savior of the Nations, come. If any of you would like to come up and see the console, it's a bit of a journey, but I'm sure there'll be people to help you find it. Then I'll be coming down to greet you.